Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. Earlier today, I was down at the sanctuary. I recorded the sermon earlier today. And I came back here and I walked in my office a little bit ago and realized my computer wasn't here. I'd left it down at the sanctuary, so I had to run down and get it, and I forgot my keys. And because you know how everything is awesome. So, hey, I'm here, everybody. Give everybody a chance to get logged in. Good deal. All right. Okay. Happy Earth Day. We had Earth Day Eve yesterday. I want to say happy Earth Day to all of you who are here. Seeing all these names here, got all the usual players. Nikki, I got the letter you emailed me. It's on my to-do list to read tomorrow. I will get to it tomorrow and get it back to you. So thank you for the chance to look over that with you. And yes, the shirt should look a little familiar from yesterday, since I wore it for both Earth Day Eve and Earth Day, I guess. Okay, cool. So awesome. So thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to give everybody a chance to get logged in.
It's in airplane mode, so I can't help you with that at the moment.
My phone just started talking for no reason. I don't want to talk to you right now. My phone is in airplane mode and seriously just started talking for no reason. Okay, cool. All right, is everybody here? Everybody good? We're going to get started here in just a minute. We'll let everybody get logged in. Want to say a big thanks to my man, Scott Lynch, who was the first one to text me and remind me to send this out today. Thank you for that, Scott. Appreciate you keeping an eye on me and helping out with that, because I am irresponsible and appreciate that. And so thank you for that. Sherry, yes, Sherry, Joyce held the poster in the video. I have documented footage of that. And yep, cool. Let's see here. Hello, everybody. Got a whole bunch of people. I'm not going to, if you want shouted out, say something later and I'll shout you out. And Kai Skinner is here, which means this place just became more awesome because Kai is in the house. So cool. I'm eating supper while we're doing this. Delicious. Well, so you ever have that moment where you lost something because it wasn't where you thought it was going to be and you thought somebody stole it? That's what happened with my computer when I walked in my office. I forgot it was down in the sanctuary. And I'm glad I remembered, or else, well, this would have gotten really difficult to do. So, all right, cool. Okay, Amy had pizza. Where'd you have pizza from, Amy? Was someplace good? I'll tell you who's got some good pizza. Of all the weird things that I eat, gluten doesn't bother me. But the gluten-free pizza made with the cauliflower crust from JT's, woo, I'd recommend that to you. It's really good. So give that a try. So yeah. Oh, Andrea misses you, Kai. Isn't that cool? We saw Andrea in the video last week. All right, friends. We're getting ready to start. Guarneri's. Guarneri's has good pizza. No doubt about that. We're getting ready to start with Genesis chapter 42. So if you want to open your Bibles, or I'll read to you as we go along here. Boy, it's so good to see everybody tonight. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you all had a great day. Everybody have a good day. Hope everybody had a fantastic day. A little cooler than yesterday, but not bad. I heard it's supposed to rain tomorrow, so it's better than being cold, I guess. But I will also say that you all know who my 7th favorite person is, right? Everybody remember my 7th favorite person is Michelle. Tomorrow night, we're going to have a very special reveal of an old picture of Michelle and I. I was going to show it tonight, and I got a text right as I was coming in the building. She begged me to wait till tomorrow so she could be here because she'll probably need to defend herself. So there will be a photographic evidence of why Michelle is my 7th favorite person that will be disclosed to the public tomorrow. So make sure you log into tomorrow night's live stream to see Batman and Robin saving the day. That's what Batman and Robin does. So awesome. All right. Well, let's recap. So we're all on the same page. We all know where we are. Joseph, arrogant son, youngest son, most beloved son, most hated son by the other brothers. They decided to get rid of him. They threw him in a cistern. And they sold him into slavery. He was then sold to Potiphar, who was captain of the guard. Potiphar made him a slave. Potiphar realized he was a very gifted slave. So Potiphar put him in charge. His household flourished. Unfortunately, Potiphar's wife also noticed how incredible Joseph was, made some advances toward him, which Joseph turned down. Then she made an accusation against him and got Joseph thrown in jail, possibly in Potiphar's house. Joseph almost immediately became in charge of the prison. While he was there, Pharaoh threw a bartender and a baker into the prison. Those two guys had dreams. Joseph was able to interpret the dreams for them. That worked out real well for the bartender, not so well for the baker. And then when the bartender, who was supposed to put the good word in for Joseph, forgot, for 2 years, neglected to remember that this happened. And then 2 years later, Pharaoh had a nightmare, and he wanted somebody to tell him what it meant. And so they called Joseph because then the bartender remembered, oh my gosh, this guy in prison does this. So they went down and got the guy in prison, brought him out, and he interpreted the dream. We're going to have 7 fantastic harvests. Then we're going to have 7 years of famine. God has revealed this to us because, Pharaoh, you are the one who is in the position of saving the world at this point. And so Pharaoh said, gosh, we need to find somebody really smart. Guess who I know is really smart? My man Joseph that I just met 5 minutes ago. So Joseph now gets in charge. He gets a special chariot for the second in command of the entire everything. Joseph went to work immediately, meaning he was called up for the prison. He interpreted the dream. Pharaoh gave him a big attaboy. And it says as soon as Joseph left Pharaoh's presence, he immediately went out on a tour of the countryside. He wanted to know what he was working with, and went out to see all the stuff. And then he set up a system where people would bring their spare grain because it was so good, there was too much to eat, store it in these warehouses, and it was left there stored so it would keep, so that the 7 good years would pass, then the 7 years of famine would come, and this food would sustain the known world at that time, and saving lives. That's what's going to happen. So God was using the Egyptians. God was using Pharaoh. God was using Joseph to save the day. I mean, just save everybody. Okay. So where we left off last time, the 7 good years go by very quickly. We get to the 7 lean years, and that's where it started. The whole world is feeling the pinch. That's very important to keep in mind. This isn't just an Egyptian thing. This is a known world at that time thing. So not only was Egypt hurting, but the outlying areas, including where Joseph was originally from, started to feel the pinch. And if you know Joseph's story, you know what that's going to translate to. So while you all are having pizza and I'm having my own supper here, let's talk about famine. All right, cool. So Genesis 42. Let's go back here a little bit. All right. Hey, Tim and Candy. Glad you guys are here. Okay. So now, if you're going to picture this in your mind like a movie, okay, we've just left Egypt, the whole thing with Joseph, in 7 fantastic years. Now we're going to switch scenes. We're going back to Joseph's biological family, I guess I could say. And they're starting to feel the pinch of the famine. So here we are. Genesis 42. When Jacob, now remember who Jacob is. Jacob is the father of all of these sons, including Joseph. When Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, okay? How did you hear it? Was there a billboard? Was there an email? Was it a Facebook post? I have no idea, but somehow Jacob got wind that there was food in Egypt. He said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another?" Doesn't this seem like an odd thing to say? I mean, why would they be standing there looking at each other? Why would the, and that's my question. That's my first question tonight. Why were the brothers standing around looking at each other? Do you hear the frustration? Does this sound like a parent? You know, why are you guys looking at each other? Oh my word, go do something. Any parents ever actually, you ever hear your parents say that? You know, guys, what? What are you doing? Parents, anybody say that? Any of you who may be logged in with your parents within earshot willing to say that you may have heard your parents say that? Yeah, they clearly have no idea what to do. And let's be fair, I don't know that there's a famine playbook out there. It's not like they can go, oh, look, it's the famine playbook. Let's see what the famine playbook has to say. I mean, it doesn't really work that way. They don't know what to do. So dad says, hey, morons, let's go do something. Go to Egypt. I heard there's something there. Okay, so there we go. Verse 2. Verse 2. I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive. Otherwise, we'll die. Okay. Trina, I'm sure Dad was wondering, you know, well, you're not harvesting and you're not planting and you're not storing and you're not making food. So what are you doing, Trina? I'm real sure at this point Dad is wondering that. Okay. So he says, go down there, buy food, you know, take some cash, go down and get this done. So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them for fear some harm might come to him. Does this sound familiar? Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain, but Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them for fear some harm might come to them. Tell me, have we heard a scenario like this yet before in this story? At any point? At any point, have we heard anything like this? And when did we hear it? Teresa, when did we hear it? Something that sounds familiar to this. I don't want the youngest son to get hurt. I don't want something to happen to the boy. When did we hear this? What does this sound familiar to? What does it sound familiar to? When did we hear this before? Somebody jump in the chat and tell me. Boy, the lag must be really bad tonight. Yes. Seems as though young Benjamin is getting the same treatment that Joseph got. Okay? We're going to keep him here, keep him sheltered, and make sure everything's okay. Yes. So what did we learn about Jacob from this detail? Yep, you're right, Suze. Jacob kept Joseph home earlier when his brothers worked. It's exactly what's going on here. What has Jacob learned up to this point? What has Jacob the father learned? Spoiler alert, nothing. He has learned nothing. He's still making the same mistake. He's still favoring one son. Apparently the hatred, exactly, Christine, learned nothing. The hatred that the other brothers felt toward Joseph, apparently dad never suspected there was foul play going on here, but he has not, Teresa, learned the lesson of spoiling a son. It's exactly what's happened. Now, let's read on, because I got more to say about that, but let's read on and get there. Okay. So Jacob's sons, all right, again, all 10 of them, Now you may ask yourself, why did all 10 have to go? I mean, they're already keeping one at home as it is. They've all got wives and children. Why does 10 of them have to go? Why can't 4 of them go? I mean, because they're taking a wagon down, I'm assuming. They're going to fill it full of grain and bring it back. Why does that take all 10 of them? You know, who's going to be defending the home front? Who's going to be taking care of stuff at home? Why did all 10 have to go? I don't know what the answer to that is. But for some reason, they all had to go. And, yeah, Linda, the father maybe distrusts the older brothers. Maybe it's the older brothers he's more worried about than dangers on the road. That could very well be true. Hey, Matt Clements, glad you're here, buddy. So, very well could be that that's what's going on. There you go, Teresa. I think not only did the father not trust the brothers, I think the brothers didn't trust the brothers. Because look, they're starving. They're hungry. And as we're all here stuffing our faces with pizza and stuff, we don't really know what that's like. But these guys are desperate. So those brothers are like, ain't no way I'm going to let them walk out of here with what's left of our money and expect them to come back with what's left of our grain. Pass on that. And they already know that there's maybe some division going on here. So they're all like, I ain't letting none of these guys out of my sight. Okay, Benjamin can stay. She can't stay with Dad, whatever. But I don't trust these guys because I know what they're capable of. So they all went down to keep an eye on each other. Okay. Verse 5. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with the others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was the governor of all Egypt and in charge of selling grain to the people, it was to him that his brothers first came. The Bible is going to so underplay this. Try to imagine this moment, okay? I mean, it's got to be surreal. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Does that sound familiar? So Joseph is standing there. The brothers walk up to him and all bow with their faces toward the ground. Have we heard that before? Anybody remember where we may have heard something that sounded like that before? Joe, it's possible the brothers couldn't get grain without actually being there. That's possible. That's right, Kim. There was a certain dream that a certain young kid had back in Genesis 37. The bundles of wheat and the stars, as Teresa said. And Sue says, Joseph's dream. His dream just came true. Now, I know normally that phrase means something different than the way I mean it here, because I'm not sure this is how Joseph wanted it to happen. But the dream was accurate. And you remember, even their dad thought, gosh, I wonder what there is to this dream. I bet he had no idea what was to that dream. And certainly had no idea it was going to be this. But they have dreamed. So, verse 7. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. I don't know why he does this. Remember, at one point, he told the bartender he wanted the bartender to put in a good word with Pharaoh so he could get out of the prison so he could go home. I mean, obviously, he still has desire to go home. Here are his brothers, and he's going to act like a jerk toward them. Now, let's be honest. Probably earned that. But, again, he spoke harshly to them. Where are you from? He demanded. From the land of Canaan, they replied. We've come to buy food. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him. And he remembered the dreams he'd had about them many years before. I mean, there's a lot going on in Joseph's heart and in his head right now. So, yeah, Kim, he's probably still a little bitter. And Joe, maybe he should have dreamed of cauliflower pizza. Tell you what, that's what I dream about. You know that's right. So, didn't recognize them. And he remembered the dreams he had about them many years before, thinking the dreams actually did mean something. He said to them, you are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become. What are they going to do about it? I mean, they're the most powerful force on earth at that time, but whatever. No, my lord, they exclaimed. Oh, no. Your servants have simply come to buy food. We're all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies. We sold our brother into slavery. There was that little thing, but, whatever. Verse 12. Yes, you are, as Joseph insisted. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become. Come to scout it out. I assume he's referring to the famine. Has the famine weakened us enough that you guys from Canaan think you could take us? Okay. Verse 13. Sir, they said, there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now. Joseph just learned something. He left, there were 10 brothers. Now there are 11. So, but the youngest brother is back with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us. What did that tell Joseph? Okay, yes, he learned he has a new little brother he knows nothing about. Okay, he learned that. But he learned something else here. What else did he learn from the brothers, from his brothers? What did he learn and what they just told him, besides the fact that he has a new little brother he knew nothing about? What else did he learn? What did Joseph learn in what they just said? Joseph learned something. Not only did he have a new little brother, again, he knew nothing about, he learned something else. Okay? He learned his father was still alive. He didn't know that either. He certainly learned that. And that would have been that's about to become a very significant thing later in the story. But he learned his father was still living, but he learned something else. And his father being alive would have been very important to him. Because you can bet that he and his father were very close, by the way things were going back in Genesis 37. Okay. Laura and Tim, you're right. But Christina, you thought who was dead? Who did you think was dead? Oh, no, sorry. They thought he was dead. Okay, gotcha. Yes. What they realize is they still acknowledge him as a brother. The brothers acknowledge that Joseph died. They still, claim? They still claim him as their brother and still count him among the brother. That's a big thing. Because as you can easily imagine, there was a lot of animosity as the Ishmaelite traders were dragging Joseph away. There was a lot of animosity going on there. Christina, you're fine. Sorry, I got ahead of you. There was a lot of animosity going on there. They were very upset. They were very angry. And at each other. I mean, they were angry enough to throw him in the cistern and then sell him into slavery. And I'm sure he was not terribly thrilled with being dragged away into slavery. So there's some animosity there. Yet what he learns in this moment is his brothers still claim him. They still acknowledge his existence. Okay. So Joseph has now learned. Oh, there's about to be a lot of remorse, Kim. I'm sure they're starting to feel it here in the fact they had to acknowledge Joseph. It's about to get a lot worse. Verse 14. But Joseph insisted, as I said, you are spies. This is how I'll test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your younger brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, I'll know you are spies. Yes, this gets very emotional, Eric. There's no question about that. So he said, I'm gonna lock all you but one up. One of you can go back. Now, Joseph doesn't have any way to know this unless somehow God revealed it to him. But let's go back to the reason, and this is why I pointed this out earlier, so I can make a point about it now. 10 brothers went. Didn't need 10 brothers to go, but 10 brothers went. We talked about how there may have been some trust issues there. Now Joseph's going to throw them all in prison, let one of them go, and expect that guy to come back and get the rest of them out. Your comment on that? Can you see the dilemma that Joseph is putting these guys in? One guy gets to go home, be the only son left. All the inheritance would be his. All the rest of them are going to die in prison. And the one that gets to go back gets to say, oh no, Dad, the camel ate all the rest of them. And they have to trust that one guy to come back and get him. Is anyone learning a lesson here? At this moment, are any one of the brothers learning a lesson? Because he doesn't designate which one he's letting go. Maybe he's going to make them pick. Now we find out that things change a little bit. But you can imagine this sounds like a dose of their own medicine, Bill. You're exactly right. They got to be shaking in their sandals because Joseph just put them literally in a hurt locker. Jacob favored Joseph and Benjamin were born by the same mother. True. Rachel, the one that Joseph desired, worked 14 years to get her. That's exactly right. And that's why, not only are they the youngest, but they're also born to the wife that Jacob loved. Again, there's a lot of favoritism going on here. So here's what he does. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out you don't have a younger brother, I'll know you are spies. I keep losing my place. Verse 17. So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. Just imagine the conversations that were happening, the family bonding, and since he didn't say I'm letting this one go or I'm letting Reuben go, or he didn't say any of that, he just said I'm going to let one of you go. What are they spending those 3 days doing? What are the brothers going to spend these 3 days in jail doing? What are they going to spend these 3 days and this family bonding experience? What are they going to spend these 3 days talking about? Any guess? Any guess what they're going to spend these 3 days talking about? Because there's going to be some serious conversations going on. What are they talking about? Oh, no, they're not leaving it to chance, Kim. No way. They're not drawing straws. Because that leaves it to chance. Okay, they're going to be bickering. That's right. Arguing about who goes. Deciding who might go. Friends, they're all saying, I'm the one to send back. I'm the most trustworthy guy here. That's right. They're all fighting about who gets to go, which is why they're not drawing straws. They're bickering. They're fighting. They're at each other's throat. Yet they're doing it in the nicest possible way because I want to be the one voted out of prison. Okay? So they're advocating hard, trying to sell myself as the one. I swear I'll come back and get you guys. Remember how we came back to get Joseph? Oh, never mind. Sorry. Right? I mean, that's the conversation. You can bet there's a lot of conviction and there's a lot of, 3 days of this. 3 days knowing that the one who gets out has the option to go home and get all the stuff. All right. This is big because the moment they open the cell and send one of them out, they have no guarantees that guy's ever coming back. Joseph is arranging this time for them to acknowledge, embrace, and regret the decision they made. So, very interesting. I wish I wish we had yes, very much like the tribal council in survival. Only difference is here getting voted off is what you want. Yeah, Laura. I mean, I suppose they would need food and we'll have to have one of them to come back. What I'm saying is there's no guarantee. Now that there's a whole lot less people, brothers are brothers. Yeah, they're probably wrestling match and they're probably bloodied up, and I'm sure Joseph made no attempt to break that up. Yeah. They may have had to come back and buy food, but there's a lot of things going on here. All I'm saying is they're in a situation where they might have to watch somebody walk away and be, God, please, God, bring him back. That's a lot of trust, no matter how you cut that one. So that's where they are. So, okay. So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days and let him think about it. Verse 18. On the third day, Joseph said to them, now remember, let's keep this in mind. People from all over the known world at this time are all coming to Egypt. So it's not like these guys showed up out of the blue. They're in a long line. And Joseph, even the Egyptians are probably like, man, what's Joseph's deal with these guys? Because they're all there. He pulled these guys out, and now he is, basically harassing them. And, because anybody in line to come and buy food could have been accused of trying to spy on Egypt. Anybody could have been accused of this. And if Joseph would have said everybody who came in who was a foreigner goes to jail, the jails would have overrun in a day. So even the Egyptians are probably going, man, Joseph's really got it in for these guys. So, okay. Yes, Joseph is he's putting them in a position, Teresa, where they're going to have to trust each other for once. They're going to have to learn a lesson because they ain't been doing a whole lot of trusting up to this point. On the third day, Joseph came back and said to them, and probably through a translator, I'm a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to stay in prison. The rest of you go home with the grain for your starving families. You want to talk about twisting the knife. First, they all want to be the one chosen to go. Now, none of them want to be the one chosen to stay. Because now, instead of watching one of them ride away and hoping he'll come back, one of them has to watch all the rest of them ride away and hope they come back. Okay? So that's, man, you want to talk about putting them in a bind. Good grief. Okay, verse 20. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you're telling the truth, and you will not die. To this they agreed. And I'm sure all of them were very much in favor of it, except for one. Verse 21. Speaking amongst themselves, they said, okay, so they're kind of having a huddle here, right in front of Joseph. They don't know. And here's what they say. And remember, they're speaking a different language than the Egyptians spoke. Joseph would have been able to understand them. They didn't know that. So they say, clearly we're being punished for what we did for Joseph long ago. Imagine how that would have went over. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. Apparently Joseph made his point, seemed like. But we wouldn't listen. That's why we're in trouble. Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy, Reuben said. Remember, Reuben was the one who suggested the sister, and he was going to come back and get him. Now, we debated on Reuben's motives for doing that, but Reuben did not want to kill or sell Joseph. Didn't I warn you not to sin against the boy, Reuben asked, but you wouldn't listen. Joseph's hearing this. And now we have to answer for his blood. So Reuben, you can see now the vitriol coming out. Look, this is your fault. I told you not to do this. And I'm sure there's a lot of this going on. So they're having this fight that they think is clouded by the language. It isn't, but they think it is. And right there in front of Joseph. Of course, here it says that. Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he'd been speaking to them through an interpreter. Okay. Some of you mentioned the emotion. Here it is, verse 24. Now he, Joseph, turned away from them and began to weep. Is that surprising? Gene Smith asks, is the fact that they were in there 3 days significant? Like Jonah in the whale 3 days, Jesus in the tomb 3 days. Is it significant in just that it's that period of time? Numbers in some parts of the Bible are very significant, and others not so much. Jesus was in the tomb that long because he was in there for an entire Sabbath, meaning he went in on the evening, he was there all day Saturday, and then he came out on Sunday. So he was there for a whole Sabbath. That's where those 3 days came from. Jonah, we don't really know why the 3 days. It just maybe that's how long it took the fish to get to Nineveh. Here, I think 3 days was chosen arbitrarily by Joseph to make sure they had enough days and nights, long days and cold nights in the jail to sort of make his point. 3 days seems to be how long it takes to break somebody down. And so that's why Joseph is using that. Is that significant for these other factors? Probably not, but the time frame fits. So Joseph becomes very emotional about what he's hearing here. And he cries. I mean, they are acknowledging that we screwed up. We should not have done this to Joseph. We were in the wrong. I mean, this is not exactly an apology, but it's pretty close. When he regained his composure, which maybe they were fighting heavily enough, they didn't pay attention to Joseph, but the Egyptians were probably like, wow, Joseph's kind of into this. Again, we don't know what anybody said, but he was kind of into this. All right, verse 24. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simeon from among them, had him tied up right before their eyes. Joseph ended up making the choice. So he let them stew on that for 3 days, thinking one of them was going to have to stay. And he let them stew on that for, I don't know how long this fight went on, thinking now one of them was going to have to stay. And then Joseph turned around and said, you. Interestingly enough, we haven't read Simeon's name at all. We've read a few of the other brothers' names in here, but we've not seen Simeon yet. He didn't pick Reuben because Reuben wanted to save him. Reuben was also the oldest. He didn't pick, I don't know. What was his motive in picking Simeon? I don't know. Maybe the fact that he was insignificant. I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Maybe the fact that he wasn't outspoken was the reason Joseph chose him. If Simeon wasn't really in the argument, maybe that's why Joseph chose him. But so they came in and tied Simeon up, which seems a little severe, but they did it probably as a Joseph probably did it as a sign to these guys. Had tied up right before their eyes and drug away. They watched another brother drug away to prison. Verse 25. If the servants who were there, the translators and such, weren't confused before, wait till he tells them this. Joseph ordered the servants to fill the men's sacks with grain. Okay, they came to buy grain, makes sense. But he also gave secret instructions to return each brother's payment to the top of the stack. And the Egyptian workers were probably like, I'm sorry, what? Why are we doing that? I mean, maybe you don't question Joseph, you just do what he says. I don't know, but I'm sure at least in the back of their mind, they're thinking, okay, first he put him in jail. We don't know why. And he's been really into whatever they've been talking about this whole time. We don't really know why. And he seems very engaged by these group of guys. We don't really know why. And now he's giving them grain and giving them their money back, and we still really don't know why. So, okay. So he pulls them out, all of them but Simeon, gives them their grain, gives them their stuff, and he says he gave them supplies for their journey home. Again, that seems a little generous. So the brothers loaded their donkeys with grain, and they headed home. Okay, so they're getting out of Dodge. Poor Simeon's back in the jail. I'd like to think We know that he didn't, but I'd like to think that Joseph went down after they left and said, Simeon, you're going to be fine. But we have no indication that Simeon knows this, because eventually Simeon will get out and doesn't appear to say anything. But okay. So after this whole ordeal where they're all like, dude, what is that guy's problem? They stopped for the night. I wonder if the brothers wondered why he did that. Why he did what, Cheryl? Exactly. What was the that you're talking about? Tell me what the that was, Cheryl. Okay, so they stopped for the night, and they're going to have a little bit to eat. Verse 27. But they stopped for the night, and one of them opened his sack to get grain for his donkey. And he found the money in the top of his stack. Which he's probably like, dude, does anybody know how this happened? Look, he exclaimed to his brothers, my money has been returned. It's here in my sack. Why he gave him food and, well, the money they didn't know about till they left. So I'm sure they had lots of questions about why that happened. But why he gave them supplies for their journey, I don't know. Again, the Bible doesn't record that they discussed that, even though I'm sure they did. I mean, maybe it's because Joseph's saying, I'm showing you fairness that you never showed to really anybody else. But I am showing you fairness in this. And so, all right, so my money's been returned. Joseph was nice enough to give us supplies. He was being generous to us after being so rude and mean to us. So now they're probably really scratching their heads, and now they go back, open their sacks of grain, and find their money is in there as well. So when they saw the money was in the bags, their hearts sank. Trembling, they asked to each other, what has God done to us? I mean, for all intents and purposes, they just stole this grain. I mean, they didn't pay for it. There's no reason to think they were, instructed to receive a 100% refund. So they think they stole it. Now they're going to have to put some skin in this game. To go back to Egypt, to go get their other brother who's still there, there's going to be risk. There's going to be risk involved in that, because if they go back, they may say, hey, these are the guys who stole the grain. Now, we know they didn't, and they know they didn't, but how can they be sure the Egyptians will know that they didn't? Okay. Verse 29. When the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them. Can you imagine what this story must have sounded like? We were 3 days in jail, and the guy freaked out at us, and then he ended up giving us supplies for our journey. After being a complete jerk, ended up being kind of nice to us. Well, to everybody but Simeon, I guess. And so when the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them. Verse 30. The man who is the governor of the land spoke very harshly to us, they told him. He accused us of being spies and scouting out the land. But we said, we're honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. 12? Okay. Now when they're talking to dad, they're counting Joseph. Now again, I'm going to have to make a wild speculation here, but I bet Joseph wasn't something they talked about too much. The brothers were ashamed of what they had done, and the father is heartbroken over losing this boy he loved so much. So I don't know this, but I feel like them saying that here is something that probably wasn't said often. They didn't acknowledge Joseph very often. Maybe they did. I don't know, but I think there's at least an argument to be made that they probably didn't mention him much. Okay. Home with our father in land of Canaan, verse 33. Then the man who's governor of the land told us, this is how I'll find out if you're honest men. Got to test your story. Leave one of your brothers here with me and take grain for your starving families and go home. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know that you are honest men and not spies. Then I will give your brother back, and you may trade freely in the land. As they emptied out their sacks, there in each man's sack was the bag of money they paid for the grain. The brothers and their father was terrified when they saw the bags of money. Dilemma. dilemma is going on here. Oh, Susan, yes, it has been over 20 years. So, I mean, I doubt that Joseph was a topic of conversation very often. But you can see, yes, Bill, there is absolutely some guilt going on here. They feel terrible about what's happened. And now they see the money. So now they're thieves. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they're thieves. They took this grain without paying for it. And I mean, what are they going to do? We don't know how it got in the bags. I mean, who's going to believe a dumb story like that? Okay, verse 36. Now remember, Simeon's still in jail. Jacob exclaimed, "You're robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone. Simeon is gone. And now you want to take Benjamin too? Everything is going against me." Now, think back to Joseph's situation. Now remember, Jacob doesn't know this. Think back to Joseph's situation. Reuben, the oldest, wanted to save Joseph. He had made arrangements to go get Joseph out of the cistern once the other brothers, left or whatever. So Reuben wanted to save Joseph. Now look what Reuben does. Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my 2 sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him. I promise to bring him back." I feel like of all the brothers, Reuben's the one we can trust. He's the one who wanted to save Joseph in the first place. He's the one that even advocated for that when the brothers were having the fight in front of Joseph. And now he's saying, look, I mean, he's not saying this to Joseph. He's not saying this to Jacob. But you can hear in his mind, he's thinking, I screwed up and lost Joseph. I ain't losing Simeon. I ain't doing it. I'm not losing Simeon. All we got to do is make the journey. We're going to go to Egypt. We're going to come back. I will bring him back one way or another. Nothing is going to stop me. And wait till you find out, and we're not going to get to this tonight, wait till you find out what he does. I mean, how many things, I mean, those of you who are parents in the chat right now, how many of you would say, I'm going to do this, and if I don't, you can kill my children? If you say that, I'm going to call children's services on you. Nobody says that. But that's how serious Reuben is about this. I'm going to go save my brother. I didn't save the other brother I could have. That's right, Cheryl. He's learning to trust his convictions. And if you know the story, you'll know that trust runs very deep now. Reuben never forgets this. So, and Teresa, yeah, I know you wouldn't. So, just wait till you see how heroic Reuben ends up becoming. So, but Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you." Dad's still playing favorites. I'm so afraid of losing Benjamin. I won't even let him leave the house, even if it would allow another one of my sons to come home. My friends, that is cold. That is cold. That is cold. Man. At this point, I got to look at Jacob and be like, Jacob, how dare you? I mean, you want to talk about, I mean, look, and we've seen Jacob do some horrible things up to this point, favoring one son over another, but this one takes the cake, friends. He's going to be willing to allow one of his sons to die in prison because he won't allow the other one to make a journey. That's bad. That's bad. Even though one of his older sons, at the risk of his own children, yeah, Laura. Jacob just said Benjamin's the only one I have left. I realize you 10 are still standing here, but you don't count. I mean, that's essentially what it says. That's right, Eric. This is harsh. This is harsh. This is bad. And this is the exact dilemma Joseph wanted to put them in. Joseph knew how dad had been with him. And he looked around. He didn't see Benjamin nowhere. He knew how Benjamin was being treated. He said, the only way I'm going to bring this to a successful resolution is I'm going to have to break this thing between dad and the youngest son. And by George, I'm going to break it. I mean, Jacob is playing some high-stakes chess here. I'm sorry, Joseph. Did I say Jacob? I meant Joseph. Joseph's playing some high-stakes chess here to try to bring this to a resolution. Cold. Wow. My son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he's all I have left. Hey, talk about twisting the knife. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving white-haired man to his grave. Sorry, Simeon. I don't know what the heck you say at this point. But Dad just condemned one of them to die. And the only thing that's going to force their hand is something some of you said earlier. I think Laura may have said it earlier. Was the fact the famine continues on and forces them back to Egypt to find out what's going on. Yeah, this is harsh. This is harsh. That's the end of chapter 42. I think we're going to stop there for tonight since we got just a couple minutes left. The situation is broken. The situation in Jacob's family is broken. It is really. I mean, I'm struggling to even find words to come up with for it because it's bad. It's bad. I mean, you're darn right. Simeon's looking out the window of the jail, if there is one, every single day, Sue. He's saying, when the guys go back for me? You know, like we came back for Joseph. I mean, oh my gosh. This is harsh. This is harsh. And but Joseph he is committed, man. He's in this all the way to try to bring his family to a better place. Because he knows now the situation in his family is dysfunctional just beyond belief. And Jacob is addressing that. So there you go. Not exactly a happy ending to tonight's lesson, I suppose. But yeah, this is hard. Yeah, Bill, I cannot believe that this has not been made into something. You're right. It is a captivating story. The story of Joseph is one of the Bible's greatest stories. Yeah, I know there's a really good one toward the end also, but Joseph is one of those many diamond in the rough stories in the Old Testament. It's really, really great stuff. Which actually is a nice segue to the thing I wanted to spend our last couple of minutes talking about. How many? We got. Let's see. We got a few chapters left. Some of these we may be able to go through pretty quickly, because I don't know that I want to go through all of this, word by word. But I want to throw it out there that what would you like to study next, or would you like to study something next? You can jump in the comments and tell me, and we don't have to decide tonight, but I'm fully committed to this. We got 40 people logged in here right now. I'm fully committed to continuing this as long as the quarantine is up. So if this is something that you're enjoying and would like to continue, I would be more than happy to, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, tell me what we're doing, we'll do it. But I would be more than happy to pick up another Bible story of some kind and talk about that. I think for this format, it is my humble opinion that the history books in the Old Testament probably work better for this format than, say, like Paul's letters would in the New Testament. Not that I'm opposed to doing New Testament stories, but I don't know that Paul's letters, because those are more sermons, and that would be a little harder. So I'd like to do some of the history books. And again, we don't have to decide tonight. Yeah, my plan is to continue. And as long as you guys keep coming, buddy, we're going to have this. I have never in my career been able to do discipleship like this to this degree. And I love it. I'm enjoying it. And I hope you are too. And so if there's anybody, you want to, Samson? That's an interesting story. Samson. Yeah, he was a spoiled brat, one of the judges. All right, I'll think about Samson. But Jonathan and David. Jonathan would be a good character. We don't know too much about him. He's sort of a minor character around David's story, but he would be an interesting one to look at. Well, think about it. I'm glad you're here, Teresa. Thanks, Christina. Just think about it, and we got still, a week or so at least at this. So we'll continue this that long and then kind of see where we are. But one of the things I'll spend the last minute or two here talking about is emotion. There's clearly a lot of emotion in the story, and sometimes we're tempted to bottle up emotion and try to or look at one situation and decide one situation is worse than the other, or we'll look at Joseph's situation and say, gosh, that seems like the worst thing imaginable, or look at Simeon's situation and say, well, that's the worst thing imaginable, and use those kind of things to discount our own experience, or discount our own pain, or discount our own discomfort. I hope you're not doing that. The point of Joseph's story and the point of our discussions here on these evenings is for you to have the chance to reflect on your own situation, not to discount it or not to try to belittle it, certainly not, but to give you the chance to reflect and think about your own life and some of the lessons that are learned, and maybe look at some things that have happened in your life in a different light, to try to discern lessons that you've learned through experiences that you've had. I mean, you can see Joseph is growing by leaps and bounds through this process. And so I hope that you'll, I hope that's what you're doing. I'm not giving you this to say nobody's got as bad as Joseph does, but that's not what's going to happen. Everybody's experience is valid and should be taken at face value. So Christian lives matter. That's true. Trina, hope we can continue. The plan is to continue, and you're certainly welcome. Glad to have you. Tina, I'm glad you're enjoying this. I've been thinking about what to do with this format after the quarantine is lifted. And again, you folks will be the one to decide that. And thanks, Linda. I'm debating on like a weekly one of these on Wednesday nights once the quarantine is lifted. I don't know. We'll see. That's what I'm thinking about. But we've developed quite a following. I mean, we picked up over 160 followers of 160 followers on our YouTube channel. So, I mean, people are coming in. Now, I realize part of that's because of the quarantine. Everybody's bored out of their skull. But, we want to be able to yoke with that if there's an audience there. So, Isaac and Ishmael would be an interesting one to look at. We go backwards in time a little bit. Oh, really? Trina says Worksheet made it to San Diego where their son Christopher is working on it. That's fantastic. And oh, really? I didn't realize Max Lucado had written on Joseph. I've not read that book, Bill. That's interesting. I know Max Lucado is a great writer, but I didn't know he'd written on Joseph. So yeah, Teresa, it is a great following. I never dreamed we'd get to this point. So, well, good deal. We'll be thinking about that. We'll take a few suggestions. Know that there's a special reveal coming tomorrow night from me and my seventh favorite person, Michelle, and just a goofy thing from the past. And so tomorrow night we'll be having the great reveal. So, and I am not famous, Gene, but a guy can dream, right? So. Netflix does have a movie about Joseph. I'm not surprised to hear that. It's such a great story. I can't believe that no one has adapted it. So, okay, so there is one there. Infamous probably fits me a little better, Gene. You're welcome, Sherry. Thank you for the shirt. Happy Earth Day, everybody. So, all right, cool. Well, guys, know I appreciate you coming out every night to share your evening with me. I that just warms my heart. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you have had a great day. Cheryl and Jack, glad that you're here. yeah, all those Batman. I've showed a few Batman here. In fact, I got a Batman in the mail today from a certain folks in this chat room right now. I got some stickers. I got some bookmarks from Batman. Got some Batman quotes on there. I even got a letter on the same day from somebody. So, thank you, Jack and Cheryl. I appreciate you guys. And Jack, I always enjoy reading your letters you send me. It's a great privilege to hear from you, my friend. So, Good deal. So, hey, I appreciate you all very much. I love you all very much. Thank you for just giving me this thing to look forward to every night. 7 adaptions of historian film, and I've not heard of any of them. Dang, I got to get with it. So, oh geez, my battery's getting ready to die. Hold on, let me plug in. This is why you plug your computer in before you start these, so you can be a super professional and not do this. There, all right, I'm plugged in. So, all right, guys. Well, I love you all very much. Thanks for a great evening, as always. Looking forward to 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Remember, if you don't hear from me by a reasonable time tomorrow, y'all better be texting me, reminding me to send out a link. Scott was he was the winner tonight. I also got ripped on by Joyce Koenig. Appreciate that. So, yeah. So I love you all very much. Y'all know what you need to do now. Go wash your hands. Have a great night, everybody.